Today on Robert's Full English Breakfast show, we have a legend of TV comedy, the actor John Challis, who most of you will know as Boycie from the cult TV series Only Fools and Horses. John, thank you very much indeed, taking some time out on your very, very busy book signing tour.
Well, Robert, it's a delight to be here. Thank you.
Boycie has sort of come a long way from Peckham. I've heard from one or two Greenwich estate agents he has been seen in Greenwich trying to pick up one or two luxury penthouse riverside apartments.
Yes, well, being a bit of an entrepreneur, as I am, I'm not only interested in cars. I am looking at a bit of property, tending to branch out, extemporise slightly, So in a wonderful place like Greenwich, you look around, you see some very interesting properties. Indeed, this is one of them. So yes. I'm just wondering if, are you moving out?
Well, not till after the Olympics, because I understand Boycie is quite keen to make a bit of a killing on...
you knew about the Olympics, did you? Because
yeah, I have heard about them, and they're doing something in the park. I'm not quite sure what.
Oh dear, I'm sorry about that. I thought maybe you hadn't heard that they were going on. And
the reason I mentioned estate agency is because that's where it all started for you, John, wasn't it?
Oh God, yes, it did. I had a bit of a false start, really, because I always knew what I wanted to do. At school, I was in all the school plays, I impersonated the masters, I picked up a guitar and had a little band. So obviously I needed to perform, but I didn't sort of recognise it at the time. But it's something that attracted me. But everybody put me off it, including the headmaster and so on. My parents, everyone was worried about how insecure it was. And so I thought, oh, well, they must know what they're talking about. So
you went with it? Yes,
I said, well, okay, I'll think about it later. And I got articled to an estate agent's firm in Surrey. And I lasted about 6 months before they sacked me. Because I wasn't paying attention. That was the trouble, because I was bored to tears.
Bored to tears. Yeah. And then what did you do after that? What job did you do after the estate agent? Didn't you
I rebelled against society. I thought it was about time I rebelled against. So I put on a rather nice sort of suede jacket and some winkle-picker boots and hung about on street corners, sort of smoking and so on. And then got a job delivering groceries in the local grocery firm in Epsom, Surrey. And had a great time, because the only exam I ever passed was my driving test. So I could drive, so that was I could find quite a lot of work. But eventually I got pushed out of there as well, because I wasn't concentrating on that either. And I wandered into W.H. Smith's and picked up a newspaper advertising for a children's theatre, travelling children's theatre.
There wasn't sort of a great audition.
No, I went to see a lady in Sutton who was very impressed by the fact that I could do funny voices, and also the fact that I could drive. And she was looking for someone who could do character voices
and drive.
And drive.
Do you think it was
not at the same time?
Do you think it's because you had a driving licence you got the job?
I think so. Oh, you've seen my acting then? Yes. No. It was a great plus, because I had this driving licence. Oh well, maybe you could say a few words. And,
you didn't go to drama school, did you?
No, I didn't. No,
Do you regret that, or?
No, not really. It's one of those things that I'd quite like to have done to see what happened. Do you know what I mean? But that's not the same as regretting it.
No.
But at the time, the last thing I wanted to do was to go back to school.
What was the next stage? Did you start moving into television in the sort of 60s?
Well, what happened was I did quite a lot of rep and quite a lot of seasons. And then I got a part in a West End show called Portrait of a Queen. And there were 4 of us young chaps, and we all had little parts of gentlemen of the press, and it was all done through a sort of storyteller. And then you'd cut to the Times thundering away about something awful that had happened in Victorian times or whatever it was. And I had one of these parts, and it was wonderful to get up on your hind legs and speak in the West End, you can imagine, about 1964, 5, something like this.
And it really meant something being in a West End play, because there was the provinces where you sort of learnt your craft, and you then hit a sort of a new level, because I'm a West End
the Vaudeville Theatre on the Strand, and
next to Drew,
unfortunately, unfortunately, the play was deemed to be too long after about a week, and my part was cut.
No.
Yes. Have you been through that?
No.
No. You've never been cut.
Well,
You're a lucky man, I can tell you.
and did your parents come and see you in any of these?
Oh yes, eventually, yes. And my mother, I remember at Bexley-on-Sea, I was doing a Peter Shaffer play called The Private Ear. She said, "Well, for the first time since I've seen you, I forgot it was you," she said. And that was a great compliment.
I was going to say that, isn't that
Yeah,
the greatest thing? But I believe your dad wasn't quite so sort of supportive.
No, never saw it as a proper job. No. My father was a self-made man, a man who believed in hard work. And I always tried to avoid hard work as much as I could. Really. I mean, one of the things they say about the profession is that you spend half the time out of work. And that was an attractive thing to me.
That was a
so I don't have to do too much work. You know. No, my dad just disregarded it and said, well, you know, it's
That
just...
must have been quite hurtful, really.
Yeah, I suppose so, because, you know, I suppose you do want approval from your parents, particularly, you know, a young chap from his dad, you know. You wanted to clap on the shoulder and say, well done, son, you know, and all that. But he saw it as an irrelevance, really.
There's a marvellous bit in your book about you with Brewster Mason and a certain piece of scenery that you did.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, I was part of the whole team of young players, you know, who had lots and lots of bits to do, lots and lots of different bits to do, which was great. And one of the bits I had to do in Hamlet, the ghost was Brewster Mason, who was an enormously powerful actor, on top of a sort of a trolley with a skirt on it, and inside, inside that was a young person like me, who held onto the handles, had a view through.
A bit like a Dalek.
Yes, it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? And you see, and you've got to go to certain parts of the stage, and so he moved like that around the stage. And of course, being 6'2", I was like that, trying to look through here to see where I was going. And so I mentioned this. They all went, "Oh yes, we'll adjust that later," and so on. But nothing happened, and we got quite late into rehearsals, and eventually Brewster said, "Stop! We're stopping the rehearsal." And he climbed down and he said, "Come out, John." And he said to them, "You have not done any work on this machine. This poor young man is hunched up, pretending to be a dwarf." Then he picked up the whole machine and threw it into the auditorium and said, "So mend it now, and we will start rehearsals again."
Then did you get into television, and was there a sort of transformation from theatre acting to television acting? And having not had any sort of training, was that frightening, or what happened?
It was difficult. I came out of the RSC, and television was starting to really mushroom, and I changed my agent by that time, and she put me in the way of sort of television directors. The first television I ever did was in a show called The Newcomers, which was just one of the first of the soap operas, I suppose. And I did quite a sort of a face-to-face audition with this television director, who gave me the part. Marvellous, fantastic. But of course, as soon as I got up there, I started being far too theatrical, because that was my instinct, was the stage. I mean, that's what attracted me, and to project. And she said, and she kept me behind after rehearsals. She said, "You're a very naughty boy, aren't you? Because you've never done television before, have you?" And I said, "Well, no, you should have told me," she said. Anyway, and she kept me behind, just exactly the same at school, like detention, and just got me to, you know, pull it down, and taught me a hell of a lot just in that one show. But it was difficult because my instinct was theatrical.
Tell me about your brush with the Beatles.
That was, yes. That was awful, yes. There were only 3 of them. George, for some reason, wasn't there. But I remember John Lennon just lay on the floor to do the interview. You know, sort of, you know, like this, you know, saying, anyway, look, you any good at making up words, because we haven't got a script or anything like that, you know. And I went, but you got, those are very good words, hey, write that down, you know, it was all that. And I said, "Where's George?" Because I thought there were 4 of you. And he said, "Oh, George is just a cardboard cutout, you know, he doesn't exist at all, really." I said, "Oh, he's a real nowhere man then, is he?" Hey, he said, Paul, this man can make up song titles. You know, I think we better get him. Have you got a favourite Beatles song? I said, actually, I prefer the Rolling Stones. No, I really did. I mean, that's a true story. Because I did. I mean, I was a Stones man and not a Beatles man.
Oh, now I don't know who that is, but
Probably my agent.
It could be the agent, but I'm sorry that you know, we're doing a lot for the Olympics, and we've got the plumber coming in.
They don't want me to enter an event or anything, do they? I hope.
Well, I don't know. You.
Well, I can do a bit of high jump. Yeah.
Steve, this is John Challis. Steve, do come over here.
Yeah.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
Yeah. I don't know, do you make a habit of walking into TV chat shows?
No, not at all. No,
Do sit down. Sort of,
very first one.
You didn't know this was going to happen. This
I
is
did not know.
absolutely
I've come to do
for
some
real.
work, and
You're not the only one. I didn't know it was going to happen either.
So, well, anyway, I think you're a bit of a fan of.
Are you staying the night? You know how expensive it is here.
I've seen the prices. Yeah,
I wouldn't
yeah.
recommend it personally.
My prices have gone up now in work.
Have
so,
they? Yeah, I should think so too.
Because actually, I think you've got a dog, haven't you?
I have, yes. Boycie.
Your dog is called
He's
Boycie.
called Boycie. Yeah, I've got a little staff, and he's named after yourself.
Well, I've known some dogs in my life, I can tell you.
I've met a few too.
That's the way, lovely.
Oh, brilliant.
Well, Steve.
So why did you call him Boycie? Has he got a moustache?
No.
Well, John's doing a book signing tour, so
Okay.
I mean, John, you couldn't perhaps sign it to Boycie.
Does he know how much it costs? Eh?
$9.99. Expensive. We're in a recession, mate.
What? $9.99? Expensive? Good grief.
I'm joking.
So I put this to you and Boycie.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Yeah, if you could, mate. It's me and Boyce.
You didn't expect
This
this?
is, I did not. No.
So do you go take him for a walk down the street and across the park going, Boycie,
Boycie.
Boycie, come here.
Do you know the funny thing is we was actually going to get a girl and call it Marlene as well.
Oh no,
We, honest to God, we was going to get a girl and call it Marlene, but we thought that'd be too much.
There you are, mate.
Boycie, thank you very much.
Have a good
It's been
read.
lovely meeting you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Not
Robert.
at all. And
Right, back
it's
to work.
upstairs. Back to work.
Yeah, I know. Back to work.
There's some good
Take
stories
care.
in there about a dog as well. The dog
Yeah.
I used to have. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.
Thank you.
Well, aren't we lucky?
That's all right. Well, that wasn't expected.
I mean, a dog called Boycie. I mean, what are the chances of that? That's extraordinary, and that's just your sort of heating engineer.
Yeah.
It is amazing the reach of the programme.
Yeah. Life sort of changed again with meeting the writer John Sullivan.
I did an episode of John Sullivan's very first series, Citizen Smith, playing a policeman. I played it in a certain way, and he came up to me afterwards and said, I like that character. He said, I'm going to try and use that again one day. And then asked to do an episode in the second series, and it went built from there.
And the rest, as they say,
30 years.
is
30
history.
years.
And it's 31 years now.
Yes, and we did a spin-off series, The Green Grass,
Yeah.
the same character. Extraordinary. And unfortunately, John Sullivan passed away last year, unexpectedly, which was awful. I mean, it's just awful. I mean,
Do you still keep in touch with any of the cast?
Oh yes,
Or just-
yeah. I see. I wouldn't say we live in each other's pockets, you know, because
No.
we all lead very different lives. But there was a good moment last year when I was doing Malvolio at the Ludlow Festival, Shakespeare Festival, and I met up with Roger Lloyd Pack in London, and he was rehearsing a Chekhov play. And we sat there thinking, if they could see us now, Boycie and Trigger doing this proper theatre, you know, they might be going, what are they doing all that for, you know?
John, I, like you, and you, like me, are great twits, aren't we, really?
Well,
The world
I
of
wouldn't put
Twitter.
it quite like that.
But I've had a lot of communications, and
Mm-hmm.
there's Lara from Greenwich asked,
Yes.
how is Marlene?
Marlene?
Yes.
Well, Marlene at the moment is in Paris.
Is
she's
she?
watching her children, Freddie and Harriet, running in the Paris Marathon. She's touring around in Calendar Girls.
Calendar Girls.
Yeah, she's
Good.
so she's doing very well.
And Tom, also from Greenwich,
Mm-hmm.
asked, where did the iconic laugh come from?
Actually, it came from a woman, if you can imagine, that laugh done by a female in a pub, always in a pub, these characters came from, years ago, who had this sort of machine gun-like laugh, and I always remembered it. script came up, says Boycie does one of his laughs, usually at one of his own jokes. So I thought, I don't know how he laughs. I tried it. Everybody laughed. They said, keep it in.
Greenwich Cabby said also, where did the laugh come from? So that's another...
Well, I think the same answer could
As
be
it's the one
put
before,
to the
really. I think
Greenwich
that's rather
Cabby.
good,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
And,
Yes, I can't think of another story about it.
No, well, that's a good one. And Rosie G said where the extraordinary nasal voice of Boycie came from. Is it nasal? I'm not quite sure.
Well, I suppose it is. Yes, a lot of people sort of say it sounds nasal. Again, this is this time a chap in the pub who spoke in a curiously pedantic way like that to make his point. Who absolutely fascinated me. You know, all actors are thieves. They nick things of other people and store them away and use them. And this was one of those. And this is the way he spoke. And so I invested Boycie with this voice.
It was a long, long slog.
Yeah, yes.
Until you had this character that's made you world famous now.
Yeah. I guess there were about. It wasn't until about the 4th or 5th series of Only Fools that it really started to lift off. But luckily, enough people at the BBC had faith in it
and stuck with it,
and stuck with it, which probably wouldn't happen these days.
No.
Because as soon as if the figures aren't quite there, they tend to take things off.
Well, I do hope you can all catch John's new book, Being Boycie, and he's shortly to bring out a sequel to it. It's a very marvellous, quick read. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I really recommend it. Well, John, all actors don't work all the time, and if they say they do, they're not telling the truth, are they? And in between times, you set up a sort of garden business, didn't you?
Oh, God, yes.
Which wasn't the hugest of success, but I know gardening is very, very important to you.
Yes, it is.
You now live in the country, and I believe some of Green Grass was filmed in your homes.
Yes, it was. You believed all that publicity, did you?
Yes,
no, that's good.
My people spoke with your people, apparently. And so, anyway, on Robert's Full English Breakfast Show, we always like to give our guests something to remember the event by. And I know that sort of when you're in theatres or green rooms and TV things, they're a bit, they can be a bit sort of impersonal. And I know you're very keen on gardening.
Yeah.
So I bought you a little present. I just like to think wherever you're working, because actors don't retire, they go on till they drop. And
they get retired. Other people retire sometimes, yeah.
But I'd like you to think, or I'd like to think that you always have a little garden in every dressing room you ever go to. John Challis, thank you very much indeed for coming on Robert's Full English Breakfast
Oh, Rob,
Show.
thank you so much for that. It's just wonderful. Absolutely. The smallest greenhouse in the world. Fantastic.
John,
Thank
it's
you.
been a delight.